Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Politics here at The Hindu with me, Nistula Hebbar, where we unpack the news making the headlines in domestic politics. Last week was an extremely newsy week as far as domestic politics was concerned. We had these fiery speeches by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Parliament and equally fiery statements from the opposition inside and outside Parliament, combating him in terms of the narrative. And all of this in the background of the first phase of polling in the very, very crucial Uttar Pradesh Assembly elections. That polling got done on February 10th. The Election Commission has also loosened up some of its COVID-related protocol for campaigning. So we are looking forward to a lot of political fireworks in those elections and those in other states. We also had the explosion of this row over the wearing of the hijab inside classrooms in Karnataka. That debate has now spread and conflict, in fact, has now spread to other parts of the country, and various people are weighing in, including the Karnataka High Court, and it is expected to give rise to a lot of developments, one of which was to be used as an alibi for various states to go forward with the Uniform Civil Code. Union Minister Giriraj Singh demanded it, and Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami of Uttarakhand said if elected to power in these assembly elections, BJP government, thus elected, would go in for a Uniform Civil Code in the state. Currently, Goa has a Uniform Civil Code, but that has more to do with the Portuguese colonial rule than something that was a post-independence development. Those things are, of course, going to be extremely important as far as politics, legality and constitutionality and constitutional aspects and implications for it for the rest of the country. But I would like to take your attention to another very significant development that has happened in West Bengal. On the face of it, it doesn't seem to be too much, and it seems as though Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, has asserted her right as the boss of the Trinamool Congress, but the conflict in itself underlines extremely interesting intra-party pulls and pressures, and may or may not imperil the succession plan that Ms. Banerjee has put in place for her party, as her supporters and supporters of her nephew Abhishek Banerjee clashed quite openly last week. We will be looking at that particular incident, and this entire episode will be about the intra-party fight within the Trinamool Congress. Well, succession wars are not uncommon within political parties, especially parties that are led by one charismatic leader who has built the party in his or her own image. We saw that in 2017 in the Samajwadi Party. We are seeing it in the Congress Party and the Gandhi family coming up against the G23. We are also seeing it in RJD to a certain extent, where old supporters of Lalu Prasad Yadav, RJD Supremo, may not agree with a lot of things that are being done by the young successor Tejasvi Yadav. And it seems as though the Trinamool, which had smoothly done this succession, at least in the run-up to the assembly elections there last year, seems to be also getting into that same groove. Now, how did this happen? Well, as always it happens, I like to take a long view of these things. These things are pretty common in political parties. When you have a successor who has been identified, as was done in the case of the Trinamool Congress, that successor will attract his own share of supporters and will also have certain ideas about how things should be run, even before having succeeded to the prime position. And that apparently seems to be the case in the Trinamool Congress. Trinamool Congress chief Mamata Banerjee she posted a spectacular victory in the assembly elections, but was also helped to a large extent by her nephew, who was equally targeted by the opposition BJP during the elections, and there were also enforcement sort of agencies who were after him, etc. So this was the political targeting was aimed at him as much as it was aimed at Mamata Banerjee, and the two of them together took the help of political strategist Prashant Kishore and his organization, although he says he's now away from that, the IPAC, the Indian Political Action Committee. And the victory that was posted in 2021 was indeed huge. The Congress and the left got decimated in that election, and the BJP, which was really going to town that they would be forming the next government in West Bengal, were restricted to 77 odd seats and are, of course, dealing with their own problems of an imploding state unit there. So what happened between Mamata Banerjee and Abhishek Banerjee? That last week she called an emergency meeting of the party's core group, dissolved the party organization. The old announcements for party positions, etc., were no longer valid, and announced the formation of a 20-member committee that would go into matters to deal with the internal issues of the party, and will get or distribute. They will take a call on distribution of portfolios from within the party. Well, as I said, as it happens, Abhishek Banerjee had his own coterie, has his own set of supporters, and of course he came up against old-timers who had been with Mamata Banerjee since the formation of the Trinamool Congress. Please remember that Trinamool Congress came up as a breakaway of the Congress party and took on the Communist Party government in West Bengal, the long-running Communist Party government in West Bengal. They set up the Singur Nandigram movements and wrested power from the Communist Party, the Left Front government, after 37 years at the helm. So these are all people who had been with her during her years of struggle, and Mamata Banerjee trusts many of them. And therefore, the face-off between these old advisors and old party colleagues and the ones who owe loyalty to Abhishek Banerjee came to a head last week. In fact, there was some talk that the IPAC was also involved in all of this, but I generally feel that the fight is always between the successor and the one at the helm, and it is easy to find a scapegoat in the third party. It is essentially a fight between the old guard and the new guard in the Trinamool Congress. And last week, in the meeting that took place in the Trinamool Congress, Mamata Banerjee asserted that she was still boss. As Partho Chatterjee, who is a Trinamool Congress veteran, Trinamool Congress leader, came out and said, there is no position except that of the chief, and that is Mamata Banerjee. Mamata Banerjee also, therefore, put her stamp of approval on her own decision to appoint Firhad Hakim as the mayor of Kolkata. He's already transport minister in her state government, and the matters had come to a head because of his appointment as mayor of Kolkata, because the Trinamool Congress had swept the Kolkata municipal polls, and some social media accounts of the Trinamool Congress asserted a one-party one person, one party post, or one post rule, which would disqualify Mr. Hakim from one of the two jobs that he's holding. That was, of course, not taken very well by the party high command, and there was a lot of controversy. One of the Trinamool leaders said that her own social media handle was being operated by the IPAC, and that she had not tweeted the things on one person, one post that had been attributed to her Twitter account. IPAC had to come out with a statement to say that they were not handling any of the social media accounts of the Trinamool Congress, and therefore were out of this particular controversy. Anyhow, this prompted Mamata Banerjee to handle things, and she basically decided to assert herself and said that enough is enough. I'm dissolving all the party organizational units, putting across this 20-member committee, which incidentally has many of her loyalists and the new entrants into the party like Luisina Filero or Sushmita Dev, who came in under the aegis of the leadership of Abhishek Banerjee into the party, did not find their space there. Yashwant Sinha finds a space there in the 20-member committee. Amit Mitra, former finance minister of West Bengal, again a long time Mamata Banerjee loyalist, is also in that committee. So currently, as of now, in Trinamool Congress, Mamata Banerjee has asserted her leadership and her domination. And but as the Hindu's Kolkata correspondent Shiv Sahai Singh says, that it is not unthinkable that things could change in the future. Of course, battles of succession are long drawn out in many cases, and especially in political parties that follow just one single leader. This is all I have for you this week on Talking Politics. I'll see you next week. Next week, I will be traveling myself to Uttar Pradesh, and hopefully I'll have a lot more insights to give you about that particular election, an election that is guaranteed to change some of the chemistry in the lead up to the 2024 general elections.